Oh.
Crap. I'm Carl.
And I'm Verge. Say it.
Rob Liefeld is awesome.
Ha ha! Welcome to Queen City Nights. This week on Queen City Nights, we have a roundtable discussion about Image Comics with our special guest, Drew Celestino from Omni Comics Podcast.
We also have some more special guests to talk about the E3 video game convention that recently went on. And we also review some savage Wolverine.
Savage!
So savage.
And now it's time for a check-in with the Chief.
Nope. I ain't doing it.
Come on.
I ain't doing it.
But it's already legal in 13 states.
A lot of things are. But I ain't doing that.
All right, fine. Fortunately, we have two friends with us from X-Strike Studios to talk about E3.
You're getting replaced.
Pat's been nervous. She hasn't got a hug in 12 seconds.
I know. It'll be okay.
Hi, I'm Tim Ekabis.
I'm Weiss Cutler.
We're here from X-Strike Studios, which is a film company we run here in Buffalo, out of Buffalo, New York. We make video game movies, video game short films. We have a video game podcast. We are video game nerds. We are stopping in on Queen City Nights this week to talk a little bit about the Electronic Entertainment Expo, which has been taking place this week, which is where all of the big video game news for the year sort of congregates. So you hear all this new stuff from Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, everything that's going on with games and systems and all that good stuff.
Yeah, when I brought up this idea to have this segment, I didn't think it was going to be that big in E3. I didn't think we were going to have much to talk about. I thought it was going to be a bit of a downer.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it's been for the past few E3s, is just this current console generation has kind of gone on, but it ended up being pretty explosive.
One of the biggest ones in the last 5 or so years.
Yeah, now, of course, the big kind of central theme this week has been Microsoft has their new system, the Xbox One, and Sony has their new system, the PlayStation 4. And we were getting a lot of new information about these two systems. Sony had previously announced theirs back in February, Microsoft a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But now we are getting down to the nitty-gritty, a lot more details, like what can these systems do, what games are going to be on them, what kind of features they're going to support. And it ended up being a pretty crazy day on Monday as they had their two conferences, one right after another.
Right, Microsoft started.
Mm-hmm. Probably wishes they didn't now.
Yeah.
But Microsoft had a good show.
Yeah, they did have a good show. And the problem is a lot of stuff that happened before E3 of information that people weren't sure about, like stuff that sounded bad, like you couldn't play used games, that it was going to be expensive, that it was...
So your system has to check online every day.
And we're waiting for Microsoft to address these things. They really didn't, and they were all true by the end.
These are things that happen. But, I mean, their press conference started off really strong with a trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which is one of 2 Metal Gear Solid 5 games? I don't know. It's kind of confusing right now. But that game looked freaking great.
Yeah, but great. It showed off the gameplay.
It takes cover on a horse.
It was ridiculous. You can't see the other side of a horse.
Yeah, that's just a horse with a saddle just free running out there. Just whatever. There could not possibly be a man on it. No, but that game looks great. Really, I thought I was done with Metal Gear Solid after Metal Gear Solid 4.
Right.
But this game looks like it's doing some great new things with the story and the game systems. And it looks like it could be really great.
Yeah, I'm usually turned off to open world, but it looked like it had the strong story to tie it together.
But yeah, Microsoft was just games.
Which addressed the problem that they had beforehand, that people were like, okay, there's the video cut together, TV, sports TV.
What does your fancy cable box do in terms of games?
Yeah. So they addressed that.
Sure. And it wasn't a lot of totally incredibly new original stuff, but it was solid. It was games. And then they got to the end of their conference, and they're like, the Xbox One will be releasing in November for $500, and everyone went,
okay,
that's a lot, seemingly. But
right.
We knew these new consoles were going to be expensive.
We had nothing to base it on at this point. Nothing to compare it to. Then we went to another conference.
Yeah, and then, there was a couple more conferences in the afternoon, but Sony was up that night with their PlayStation 4 conference. And, they're going through games, talking about this and that. We find out that Final Fantasy versus 13 versus 13.
The action game.
This action game, the Final Fantasy 13 universe that's been in development for
They made a big
way
deal
too
about
long.
exploding one number and putting up another.
Yeah, that's now Final Fantasy 15,
That's 15.
and the crowd goes wild. That's crazy
Sure.
and cool. They announced Kingdom Hearts 3, finally.
For some people, yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
great
great
for
for
some
people.
people, but you have this Final Fantasy Disney crossover. It's not really my cup of tea, but I know a lot of people have been waiting for it for a long time.
Sure.
And the crowd went nuts, and so here's the games for the PlayStation 4. This is what it's going to do, and then they come out and they're just like, yeah, our system is going to play used games, just
Yep.
right in Microsoft's face. They're like, you won't have to check online on our system every 24 hours. Just
They just
Right
had
in
a
Microsoft's
list. They were
face.
just walk, check off. Okay, what are they doing? Okay, do they have kids? Hate them. Spit in their kids' faces. Done.
tell them how it is.
Tell them how it is.
And then they left off their conference, their coup de grace, that their system's going to be launching at $400, which is $100 less than the Xbox One. And everyone was just like, oh man, the Xbox One, that doesn't look good.
No, like there's no reason to buy an Xbox One over a PlayStation at this point.
Yeah,
No one gave a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if you're looking at all the details, to us, it seems obvious that the PlayStation 4 is going to be the system to buy if you're going to buy one of them. And that's if nothing changes. But we're still
Right.
in basically the preamble to this fight. And a lot can change. And people are going to buy the Xbox One, and there's going to be games on it that people are going to like. It's just like, how are those policies going to change? How is this whole pricing scheme going to play out between the two? But, I mean, Monday night, it did not look good for Microsoft.
No, and it was just such an obvious swap from the last console announcement generation when Sony came out with a $600 price point and a really slow start. And had to change policies, and Xbox was the underdog. So Xbox has too much money, they've got so much hubris, and they don't care. They think people are going to buy their system anyways, and some will.
Yeah, some
But-
people will. But it just seems like Sony has their heart in the right place this time around. They had this beautiful indie showcase of just like these 8 different crazy different indie games with Mercenary Kings and Octodad and just weird stuff that
Right.
was up there. And Microsoft had a little bit of indie stuff, but really that's where the creativity is in the industry right now. So it seems like Sony's going whole hog after that. Microsoft's kind of like,
Yeah, it's not even the indie games that they showed themselves. It's that they're going to foster it. Like Microsoft felt like, oh, we should pander. We'll throw one in.
I'll put on the shirt of the company.
Right.
But yeah, other stuff that was going on. That was kind of the big story. But let's see. There was the kind of the Walking Dead announcement for the PlayStation Vita, which is Sony's portable. If you haven't played the Walking Dead game yet, you really should. But they announced a new episode, and that's coming out on everything. A new DLC episode. That's cool.
Right, and that's not the second chapter. That's an in-betweener.
It's an in-betweener. We got kind of a tease for Star Wars Battlefront, which is a new game from EA. New Star Wars game. It's always good. Somebody's happy.
There's George Lucas.
And then, Nintendo had kind of their little thing, announced the new Smash Brothers with Mega Man, and some other new Nintendo stuff, Mario Kart 8.
Wii Fit Trainer.
What you've come to expect from Nintendo at these shows.
Right.
But that was pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, for I got to. I went to Best Buy to see their kiosks really quickly. Not much to say, I guess. Wind Waker HD was also announced, and that just looks gorgeous. Like cell shading looks amazing in HD, and new Mario Kart is a Mario Kart. And the new Mario game that was announced is more of the multiplayer fare, like the new Super Mario Brothers, rather than the main Galaxy continuity thing. So. Yeah.
Well, that's the quick and dirty of it. If you want to hear more about our thoughts on E3, we did an E3 episode of our podcast. You can see on the website, xstrikestudios.com. You have the videos, we have the podcast. You can check us out there, Facebook, Twitter, etc.
Sure.
X-Strike Studios.
Come to our house.
Go to his house.
My house, not his.
Yeah.
Quiet on the set. Are you ready? Action.
Verge.
Carl.
Let's review some comics.
Let's review some comics.
Awesome. What do we got this week, Verge?
Well, we got 3 books this week as opposed
3.
to our usual 4 because we're dummies and we read the wrong book that has already been reviewed. But it was $10,000.
It was $10,000.
And it was still awesome. And it was an Image book, and Carl liked it a lot. Okay, so this week we've got some Walking Dead from Image.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to have an Image-related show, we might
Roundtable
as well talk
discussion,
about
yeah.
possibly the most popular of all Image titles.
Yeah, I heard this title is... a lot of people like it.
Some dude made a show
yeah,
or something.
It's got a television show.
Yeah, whatever.
So yeah, Walking Dead issue 111. Verge, what did you think?
I think that this book is just never, ever, ever, ever going to disappoint me. I really don't. I mean, they're pseudo-safe right now, and I say pseudo-safe because they're never really legitimately safe in this book. I mean, in Walking Dead, it isn't just the zombies that you have to, be scared of. It's the other jerks around you. Everybody's lost their mind, rightfully so. I mean, look at the world that they live in. Carl's a little psychopath, and I really wish he would just, die. That's the only part... That's the only part of Walking Dead, the series.
Why do you want me to die?
I'm sorry, Carl. Not you, Carl.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm sorry I scared you. I'm sorry. Sorry! But yeah, no, it never disappoints me. Volume 18 of Walking Dead just came out, and I recommend picking up all 18 volumes because they're just excellent. And this is just a couple issues in to where Volume 18 leads off.
Yep. So you're going to say I'm assuming pick it up.
I will pick this up, and I recommend that all of you do, too.
Okay, cool. I'm going to drop a little shocker, jaw dropper, and probably lose a lot of credibility with our viewing audience.
Losing the street creds?
Losing a bit of street cred. This is the first issue of Walking Dead I've ever read. Macaulay Culkin face.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I can see the appeal to it. Even in this issue, nothing really happens until the end. It's just dialogue.
Yeah.
And there's not, quote-unquote, zombies in it. And, I mean, personally,
there's a zombie in it.
there's a zombie.
But it's there long enough to get shot through the head.
I'm kind of tired of the zombie/vampire trend going on. But this being my first experience with it, I can understand the appeal. I see why people like it. I'm sure the television shows are entertaining. So even though I'd never read it before, didn't know who anyone was, didn't know what was going on, it was still an enjoyable single issue of a comic book. The art is good. The dialogue is good.
It's in black and white for anybody who hasn't
read
Walking
comic.
Dead. It's in black and white, which actually helps because it takes down what sometimes seems like gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
It takes down the gruesomeness of the whole thing because it is pretty damn gruesome in this book. And the focus is on the people who are alive still. The focus isn't on the zombies. It's these people and their survival and lack thereof.
So yeah, definitely gonna say pick it up for Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, our second book this week is Batman.
Le Batman!
Le Bat, issue 21. This is the beginning of the 0-year story arc done by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the fantastic all-star team that gave us the Night of Owls, Court of Owls, and Death of the Family.
Man, they are the dynamic duo of comic books right now.
Ooh, look at that. You're clever.
Yeah.
You're shifty. Yeah.
This is the kind of quality shit you get from Verge. All the time, baby.
Gotcha. Okay, so 0-year. As you can tell from the title, they're going back
It's
to...
a year involving zeros.
0-year. This is, from what they've said, not replacing Frank Miller's seminal Year One storyline. This is from what they've said, in addition to it. So I'm guessing since they're calling it 0-year and Frank Miller's was Year One, this is supposed to take place before Frank Miller's Year One. We have Bruce Wayne just coming back from training, getting into the vigilante work. It actually opens up with kind of a flash forward, and then the rest of the story is a flashback where you've got Batman on a dirt bike.
Yeah, he's in the very beginning. Yeah,
he's very
he's got he's super rednecked out with his sleeves ripped off and junk.
It's almost like he's in Walking Dead.
Astonishing.
So yeah, but then it flashes back to Bruce early in his vigilante career, and that's basically what this is going to be. Is an origin / beginning career story. There's a gang called the Red Hoods, headed by the Red Hood.
Astonishing.
Amazing.
Again.
Bunch of Red Hoods.
I love Batman and I love this.
It's unnecessary.
It's not just unnecessary. I just feel like, we were doing so super great in the first 20 issues continuity-wise. I mean, like, staying within a certain timeline and developing new stories going ahead, I think, was just hands down some of the best stuff coming out of DC.
Yeah. Incredible.
I think that this is almost a step back from all of that.
In a lot of ways it is. As much, and that's the surprising thing about the book, as much as I think it's unnecessary and we don't need, we've had Frank Miller's Year One. We've had the Batman Begins movie. For a character who up until, years ago didn't really have much of an origin story fleshed out, it seems all we've been getting is Batman origin. And even though it's unnecessary, it's still Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
So it's still great.
It's still like a good read.
It's still great.
So it's like
utterly unnecessary and still so super great.
It's like that fantastic, pie from Grandma that she makes every year, and you've had it before, but it's still good.
You still eat it for 3 days.
So it's. Where are you on it? Are you pick it up or pass?
I'm pick it up. If we ever do Batman reviews, I will probably never say pass.
I'll say pass.
Well, I'm sure you will, but
and Batman's my second favorite character, so.
This stuff coming out of the new 52 Batman is so freaking great, so freaking great. Scott Snyder's, son of a bitch, he's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Hate you, Scott Snyder. Hate you.
But we love you too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say pick it up too. Again, as much as it's unnecessary, we don't need it. It's still Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and they still do quality work, even in a story that you don't know if you want to read or not. But then it pulls you in, and it's great. So pick it up.
Yeah, pick it up.
Cool. All right, Verge, what do we got next?
Savage Wolverine.
Number
6.
Number 6.
Number 6.
So in this issue, Wolverine is recruited by Elektra to do something that he doesn't think is going to be something that other heroes should be involved in, and ends up it's going to be a job for the Kingpin. What'd you think of the issue?
I thought it was pretty good. I've been enjoying Savage Wolverine from the beginning. This is a good jumping on point. Majora is doing the art in this issue. And Spidey's on the cover. You get a little Spidey action in there. A little Spider-Woman action, who I pretty much love all the time. Wolvie gets his, part of his face blown off and all that. And he's in the classic brown and orange
I love
costume.
It. They brought him back to the old 80s brown and orange costume. I saw that in the preview pages for this book. And that's what really kind of got me to jump on the book. I haven't been reading Savage Wolverine because I've been getting my Wolverine fix in like Avengers and X-Men, things like that.
In every other Marvel book ever, yeah.
Pretty much. He's really overused at this point. But
that's why I like this book, though. Because he's not in Avengers.
It's just him.
It's not, I'm in X-Men. Yeah. It's Wolverine. He was out in the Savage Land kicking it with Shanna the She-Devil for a while there. And, no, I enjoy this book. It's always great when you get a couple extra characters thrown into a book. That's always nice. I always love seeing that. The art is, perfect.
Yeah, I love Madureira's art, especially for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because it's just his pseudo anime
cartoony
style. I'm not a huge anime fan, but his style works for this. And for Spider-Man especially, that super agile character, Wolverine and Elektra are the same way. His art is really good in this. His art style for me works for some things, doesn't work for everything. Like I wouldn't necessarily want to see him drawing like Superman.
Yeah.
Or
Thor.
Yeah. He wouldn't work on.
There's only certain artists
he did Ultimates 3, which was just horrible. I'm sorry.
And the coloring on that was bad too.
Yeah.
That didn't help.
But yeah, this book, very good jumping on point, new story arc. So if you want to get some Wolvie action in you, I'm gonna say pick it up. What do you say?
Sounded great. by the way. Snicked.
Oh,
Like, that's...
You're terrible.
I know, but what are you going to do about it? But I would definitely pick this up. Did you notice, though, that it's Peter Parker Spider-Man and not Doc Ock Spider-Man?
That's my only gripe with the book. They got to make up their mind which Spidey they want
I
to
think
use.
creators at Marvel are just trying to be like, I don't give a crap about this whole
That's
change that
possible.
happened. It's a lot easier to just write him as Peter Parker, which it is. It really is. Instead of having like wasting 3 pages on Wolverine, like sniffing the air, being like, Peter doesn't smell right. What's your problem here? You're not the right guy. What's going on? Like, you're just wasting time.
Wolverine's Canadian. When did he become like a southern yokel with a piece
Everybody-
of wheat straw hanging
everybody-
out? Hey, Spider-Man doesn't smell, right?
Yeah, eventually, gradually, people just turn into, like, slack-jawed yokels to me.
There you go.
That's pretty much how it works out.
Well, those are our
Pick it
reviews
up.
for this week. Come on into Queen City Bookstore and check them out.
Thank you. All right, quiet on set, you wenches.
All right, for our roundtable discussion this week, we have a special guest with us, as always. We have Mr. Drew Celestino. Drew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, sir. How you
What's
doing?
up there, Broham?
Hello.
Why don't you tell those viewers at home a little bit about yourself and how you got into comics?
Well, I am Drew Celestino. I am the co-host of Omni Comics Podcast at omnicomicspodcast.com, kids. I got into comics when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
I feel like such a young fart when it comes to reading comics when I talk
'cause
to you
you
guys.
are.
I know. It's the worst.
Yeah, like my older cousin was kind of into him. Like, we'd go to the corner store and be like, "Oh, dude, check out this Wolverine!" And it was the Wolverine or the Hulk cover where it was Wolverine on the cover. I think it's a Todd McFarlane cover. He's got his claws popping.
claws
You
and
can
the
see the
Hulk
Hulk
and
and
the-
yeah,
yeah.
that issue. And I was like, "That's so cool!" So from there on, it was like, okay, comics are a thing now. So that was like my gateway. And then my Uncle Mark actually. He found out that I like comics, and then he liked comics, and he was like, "Dude, you like comics?" So
I can corrupt him.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened.
Awesome.
So I was then indoctrinated into the world of comic books, and
Great.
on and on.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, our topic for this week is the evolution of Image Comics. Now let's gaze back into the distant past
Into the past.
of 1992. Nice Wayne's World
I
reference.
see what you
You're
did there.
welcome.
So 1992, I was, I think, just getting out of 8th grade, give or take. Where were you guys in 1992?
I was 10.
I was 9.
God, I am so old. All right, anyway, 1992. Comics are just about to hit the beginning of the collector's bubble with the release of Superman 75, the Death of Superman issue, which started the comics boom collector's bubble. People were buying comics as investments, thinking that 5 or 10 years down the road they were going to put their kids through college and buy a Corvette after they sold all their comics that had a couple million copies printed of them.
Put it at number 1 on it, bro.
It had number 1. It was.
And it was in a bag.
It was in a bag.
And I'm
It
gonna keep it in the bag forever. I'll
Exactly.
never open it.
It's got a hologram card in
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't
Executioner
happen.
song.
I
Exactly.
still have those.
So yeah, that didn't happen. But shortly before this, you might say a revolution happened at Marvel Comics. Marvel had arguably the hottest artists in town on a lot of their key books. Their Spider-Man, their X books. And these artists decide Marvel's making huge money off us.
And we
And-
get nothing
Yeah.
from this deal except for our base paycheck, our page rate.
Yeah, they get a page rate, which is like a price the company pays the artist per page of art they produce, and a check. It's almost like car sales or waiting tables or something like
They
that.
were work for
Basically,
hire.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
you
work
get
for hire.
commission checks, yeah.
So these artists get together and say, okay, we're going to give Marvel a chance to make right and give us a little more money for our work, or we're going to go do our own thing.
Yeah, 8 dudes.
8 guys.
Went up to the head
Hot.
honchos.
So of these 8 was Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld,
Eric Larson.
Eric Larson,
Jim Lee.
Jim Lee,
Will
Mark
Spartaccio.
Silvestri, Will Spartaccio,
Valentino.
Valentino.
Yeah.
Now, all these guys, Jim Lee was doing his X-Men series, which X-Men #1, as you mentioned on your show,
best-selling comic
Best-selling
book of
comic
all time.
of
to
all
this
time.
day.
Yeah, which is impressive considering back in the golden age of comics, how many issues were being printed.
And there are
sold.
Jim Lee die-hard fans.
Jim Lee was doing X-Men. Todd McFarlane had launched the Spider-Man series that he was on for a whopping 6 or 7 issues, I think, before moving on.
You guys got any of those McFarlane Spider-Mans?
That number might come into play later as Image launched.
Yeah. So these guys go to Marvel and they ask, give us more money. Marvel says no. Marvel sends them away. They decide to form Image Comics. Now at this time you had Marvel, you had DC, and you had a couple indie labels. You had Dark Horse,
Kitchen Sink.
Valiant.
Yeah.
But nobody was competing with Marvel and DC.
So these guys, what they ended up basically doing was they took Image and each of them started their own production companies, basically.
Yeah, their own series
underneath
with
the umbrella of Image. So they had their own studios. Basically, Image was just the name of the whole brand.
They were smart though, because in the first, I'd say, 4 or 5 issues of like those initial Image titles, they didn't really mention their studio names.
Right.
It was just Image Comics.
Image.
Boom.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is it. And like there were little crossovers with characters from other studios going over here. Like, oh look, Spawn's in Savage Dragon, and Savage Dragon's over in Spawn, and those jerk-offs from Youngblood are showing up. And
Yeah, there was an early attempt at a unified Image universe.
Right. Which, okay, let's see how that works out when the money comes now. But
Image officially launched in April of '92 with the release of Youngblood #1. Yeah. See, here's the thing, kids. You have a bunch of artists who get together to launch their own label. That's great. Most times in comics, though, artists don't do the writing. And there's a good reason for that. Not all artists can write.
And not all writers can draw.
Yeah. And as
not
Image...
all anchors get... whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, we can go on and
Not
on
all
with that whole
anchors
thing.
can
Yeah.
trace.
Wow.
No, I'm joking. I'm just making...
Stop it.
I'm making a Chasing Amy reference.
I'm with you.
So they launched with Youngblood #1, which, looking back on now, back in the day, like we were discussing earlier, Rob Liefeld was doing all this different stuff, and us being young, we're just like, ooh, flashy, new, cool.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
That Image wave hit when
I didn't suffer through any of that.
Lucky you. Man, I still have scar tissue. But at the time, I was 10 years old, dude, and it was
new.
It was the newest, hottest thing you could imagine.
Action-packed.
Action-packed. The pop, splash page after splash page.
Yeah.
Art made for posters, and costumes like, edgy and hip and cool, and like everybody had a cybernetic arm. Everybody had a gun that was 17 feet long.
Yeah.
6 clips.
No one had feet. It was unbelievable. It was a revolution. Really.
Yeah. Well, the
So-
thing about Image, though, one of the great things that they did, they had like these 2 rules. The first rule was the creators of these, characters owned the characters. They owned their creations. And the other thing was the partners wouldn't mess with each other as far as like money and merchandising and stuff. They weren't going to mess with each other. So they had these 2 those were basically the founding rules of Image. Creators owned their creations,
And
which
that was
is unheard of
that was
in comic
the revolutionary
books.
part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because for the first time, you could go out and create something and own it. Like, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, Bob Kane, which amazing creative artists never actually owned their
Jack
characters.
Kirby never
Jack
saw.
Kirby. And now there's a company that's allowing you to own the characters. And that's where I think the real revolution came in.
Yeah.
But their full slate of launch titles was Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Spawn, Wildcats. I think there was one more. No. Yeah, that was it. That was their original launch run.
Cyberforce.
Came later.
Cyberforce
later?
was later, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was one more title. I just can't.
Wetworks, which never came out.
Yeah,
Right.
Wetworks
On time.
came later
Wetworks
too.
never, yeah.
Like
well, that
Wetworks,
ended up being the
Cyberforce.
problem with Image is that nothing was coming
Yeah.
out on
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, you had these artists who were doing fantastic artwork, with the exception of Liefeld, on a lot of these books, but they're also learning to run a company and getting stuff out on time. They're just not doing a great job of it. Almost
Yeah.
every title had massive delays. And I think that's what hurt a lot of their business in the, not so much early days, because you couldn't keep the stuff on the shelf in the early days, but as it went on and comic readers, kind of got in the groove with their stuff, the delays, especially I think Wetworks was the worst one of all.
Hey, you know what? You forgot a launch title. Spawn.
I did, wow.
Still being published to this day, mind you.
Spawn and
I
Savage
thought we had
Dragon.
Spawn
And
on that
Dragon.
list. But, the thing about those titles, the popularity that they had when they first came out, Image was actually selling better than DC
Yeah.
at one point. They were
Yeah.
selling better than one of the big two.
Yeah.
I
that
mean, it was like
really
a
impressive.
huge deal. It was a huge thing. And, you look at the popularity of it was so popular that very quickly after the book started coming out, they made a movie out of it. It was an awful movie, but they,
Got you into comics.
it sure did.
I think they had a Savage Dragon cartoon and a Wildcats cartoon as well.
Yeah,
They,
both on USA.
USA, man.
I believe
Yeah.
Captain Planet actually came out of Captain Planet came out of one of the writers from Image.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
I thought you were going to say
Yeah.
Captain Planet came out of an Image comic. I was like,
No,
oh.
They
no,
were bad, but they weren't
There
bad.
was
Jesus.
one of the artists or writers from Image, the original
Yeah,
team,
yeah.
actually was on a Captain Planet book for a while.
So, yeah, but as we start to see,
Captain
is
Planet.
no.
How
Sorry.
bad did you feel
No.
if you were the kid who got heart?
I know.
It's like losing,
the
dude.
Here's the
worst.
power. It's worthless. Enjoy. Go fight evil with this worthless power.
fire, water. Heart.
Hearts.
Yeah.
Go sit in the corner.
Stop it.
Maybe you could make people like, I don't know, ultra depressed or ultra happy at inopportune times.
That could get hot.
Possibly.
It's a great superpower to
Suddenly
have.
it's looking up.
Yeah, really.
But back on
Yeah,
topic
so,
here.
okay, as quickly as Image takes off and gets popular, we start to see these guys don't know how to run a company. Books are constantly being late.
Rob Liefeld is CEO.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld is CEO.
Rob Liefeld is CEO. End of story.
But on top of that,
Was
after...
he elected CEO? Like, did
I don't know,
Did they
like,
get
they
in a
sat
room
and
and
they're,
said,
like,
like,
writing
you know
down
what?
names?
Rob's pretty sharp, man. We should. Rob's the man.
They're just like picking names out of a hat.
That
Yeah.
had
That
to be
really
how it
had to
went
have
down.
been, yeah.
So, but like, after
Aw.
these initial launch titles, which kind of, you look at, Spawn, Youngblood, Savage Dragon, and Wildcats, each one's kind of like diverse. There's difference to the title and the characters. As it goes on...
To varying degrees.
Yeah. Diverse within the Image world. Comparison to our stuff out there, yeah, you can obviously draw
Totally.
comparisons. I've always said, you take the Crow and Batman, put them in a blender, pour it out, you get Spawn.
More or less. And don't forget Doctor Strange
Yeah.
with the cape.
But
Oh, Doctor Strange.
yeah, as it goes on, we see new titles coming out that are incredibly similar. Cyberforce, Wetworks, Bloodstrike,
Strike.
Brigade,
Rub the blood, bro.
Rub the Blood.
It's on the cover.
Witchblade was
God.
actually a fairly original.
Which was
idea that came
little,
out of
I
it.
think,
That came a few years down the road. Though,
Yeah,
didn't
that
it?
was
Mark Silvestri, right?
Silvestri did that, yeah, and
Yeah.
then it became when Michael Turner started doing the art on that. It was super popular at the time because
and Mark Silvestri
That dude can
split it
draw
off to
broad.
do Top Cow.
he started
split
Top
off
Cow.
Top
His
Cow.
that was his
Yeah.
studio name.
His studio name.
Yeah, he
through
did Top
Image.
Cow. Was Jim Lee did Wildstorm.
Which we all
Which-
know of Wildstorm.
Yeah.
DC purchased much
Todd
later.
McFarlane Productions,
Made toys.
which are
Sounds like-
awesome, and I own
They
several.
are awesome toys.
Of
So,
course,
yeah.
Rob Liefeld's studio is called Extreme Studio.
Wasn't it awesome at one point too? Was
It may have
awesome
been.
Studios
It-
or whatever
it-
the hell it was.
Extreme Studio by Rob Liefeld. Meh, what a douche. Ugh,
Yeah.
We really just
we
don't,
hate that guy.
Well, as you
I
may.
just don't like his art.
He looks like such
I've
a
never
wiener.
I've never personally met the man. You can meet the guy. He could be the friendliest guy in the world. and
I
it could
don't
be
think he
impossible
is.
to
Have you
hate
read
him.
any of his? Well, I haven't
know,
personally read his
I
Twitter
know,
thingies
it's-
because I don't care. But like,
he
he
yeah.
acts like a douche, and they
does.
kicked him out as CEO. They were like, "Hey, Rob Liefeld, you're kind of abusing your power as CEO of Image. So yeah, let's not have you do that anymore."
how bad can a guy who's in a jeans commercial be?
I was gonna say, in fairness, the man was in a jeans commercial directed by Spike Lee, no less.
Man,
It was a Spike Lee joint.
It was a Spike Lee joint.
that
with Rob
doesn't
Liefeld.
fix anything for me.
If anything, it makes you facepalm harder.
Yeah,
How did this
like
man
double,
send?
like oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's awful. Man, we are harping on his ass so hard tonight.
He's earned it.
Yeah, he has. I guess
Okay.
if you're going to talk about Image, you kind of can't help but bring him into the conversation. So in the late 90s, we basically have the collector's bubble burst.
Yeah. The
And-
party ends
Explosions.
harshly.
And what seems to be the slow demise of Image Comics.
Of comic books as a whole.
Yeah.
Marvel declares bankruptcy. DC's not in
Sells
any
off
better
all their
shape.
stuff.
And Image, their mistakes come home to roost. The late titles.
They basically start splitting apart.
Yep. Too
Well,
much.
that worked out for some guys though. Like Jim Lee sold off to Wildstorm. He sold Wildstorm to DC, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Image
Yeah.
loses a founding member. You know, it's big strike against Image now. But Jim Lee gets rich because DC just paid him a boatload of money.
Right.
And then Liefeld, they said, okay, you're goodbye. Go,
Get out of here.
Go run away.
Former CEO Rob Liefeld.
Maybe if you learn to draw feet, maybe you can come back. Maybe, but
And
for now,
backgrounds.
We'll see.
and backgrounds, and
Better
more than
not
one
say.
face. But
Yes.
you know,
And the correct hand on the correct arm.
but I mean, arguably,
I'm gonna do the rest of the show in Liefeld face.
But I mean, arguably, two of the three biggest guys that founded the company
Yeah.
left.
Yep.
So McFarlane's still around, but by then he wasn't drawing anymore.
No, he was. How long did he go on?
Sitting
Spawn?
around collecting baseballs.
Yeah.
How long did McFarlane go on Spawn? Mrs. Spawn.
I honestly don't remember. I think it was very, very few.
Capullo came on in like the teens, I want
I
to say.
think it was 18. Was it 18?
Might have been
when
18 or
Capullo came on?
19. So, you know.
Okay, so
Anyway,
Todd doesn't stick around long on a book.
no, he's
He
got.
never really does.
No, he's got to go tan and look creepy.
By the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and collectible baseballs and be a
Well,
giant guy.
To be fair,
person.
the guy's got the money. And he's got stuff he's passionate about. If we had that kind of money,
Yeah, fair enough.
If I had that kind of money, I would buy this whole building and demolish it and then rebuild it again as Queen City Bookstore, the whole thing.
could we have a Batcave?
Yes.
Awesome.
that's my lottery winnings right there.
Could we have a podcasting studio inside of it too?
Yes, this whole entire, from here down to the end, down to the corner, this would all be our building.
We'll rent it to you like John Lovitz.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yowza.
Guess I'll be staying at home.
Yeah. So we've got the decline, collector's bubble burst, and then Image, whoever's running Image at this time,
It was Valentino for a while, wasn't
Valentino, start to realize, hey, there's other talent out there.
it? Yeah. When things got bad, they lost big names. The bubble had burst. Hey, we have to reinvent the company. What are we gonna do? Like now that the name guys aren't gonna sell books anymore. It seems like at that point they invested in, I don't know, good stories, finding talented writers to come on board titles.
Original,
Yeah,
really original books.
right. And next thing you know, oh my God, we have like a little mini renaissance going on
Yeah.
in the indie movement. And suddenly you have guys like Robert Kirkman coming on board.
Walking Dead.
Bendis got his start at Image,
Yeah.
working for McFarlane, right? He did like Sam and Twitch or whatever. For,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did
this-
Sam and
this-
Twitch.
A Spawn spin-off.
Yes.
Next thing you know, Bendis, biggest thing in comics that came out of Image. And, as we now know, Kirkman, Walking Dead and Invincible, two of the best books on the stands every single month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Kirkman showed that Image could still do a quote-unquote superhero title with Invincible.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't read Invincible myself, but I've been getting recommendations from you and recommendations from you.
Yeah.
So I will definitely look into that at some point. But obviously, Walking Dead. What,
phenomenon.
Yeah. It's
I am in the last probably month and a half, 2 months, I've picked up 3 new Image books. Like just number ones.
yeah.
It's phenomenal, the stuff that's coming out of Image right now.
Yeah, we reviewed 10 Grand last week,
Yeah.
and you loaned me the first 2 issues of that, and they were fantastic.
So great. I mean, it's got that Constantine sort of backstory, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to it, and the art is
so good.
original and wonderful, and the writing is great. Like the dialogue in that book is so amazing.
Yeah, it feels very natural, and it flows well. And then you've got Saga, something like Saga coming out, which is just a gorgeous book.
Fiona's doing the most amazing. I mean, she's allowed to go 6 issues and take like 2-3 months off. That broad is
Yeah.
working her ass off.
Well, that Brian K.
On that
Vaughan
book, and
guy,
you can see it.
he's written a comic book or two
Yeah,
in
that
his time.
that
so
Why the Last Man
that
stuff
was
from
pretty
Vertigo.
Good. Yeah, pretty good stuff there.
That's like one of my favorite books ever.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I
Easily,
mean, like,
hands down.
you can honestly, anybody can walk into this shop, and I can recommend they read Why the
Yeah.
Last Man, because it's for everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now we kind of come to where Image is today. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. They're a mainstream company that produces indie style titles.
Well, if you think about it, when they started out, they were nobody. Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and then your small
Yeah.
potatoes. Now, Image is a very viable number 3 publisher. Now they're not doing 50% of the market like DC and Marvel are kind of splitting the pie, but they have like a good solid 10 to 12, 10% of the
10-11%
Damn.
all the time. Yeah.
That's not bad.
Which compared to how much Marvel and DC are taking up is a huge chunk of what's left
big
over.
time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
And like again, as for creators, that's the place you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You own everything, and Image is a
Well,
viable company that's
Yeah.
going to put your book on the stands.
even big names like Scott Snyder, who's doing like everything under the sun at DC. He did The Wake #1. He's doing The Wake, which is a 10-part miniseries.
Is that Vertigo?
That's Vertigo.
It's Vertigo.
God, I do it every time.
It's all right.
Every
Companies are
time.
very similar in the type of
They really
material
are, yeah.
produce.
But you have a creative powerhouse happening there now. That started when they had fallen apart and they kind of had to invest in new creators and to stay,
Yeah.
to reinvent themselves.
Which was wonderful.
But then when Kirkman
Yeah.
became the CEO, when Kirkman became the publisher, whatever. When Robert Kirkman got handed the reins and he put out the Kirkman Manifesto, when he basically said, "I'll never work for the big 2 again. Creators, I want all of you to, why do you want to play with someone else's toys? Write your own stuff. Creator owns the way to go. Come to Image. Tell
Yeah.
your stories. Own your stories." Well,
Yeah.
that was a few years ago now, and Image now I think has really embraced that concept, and you have so many cool books.
Yeah,
out.
there's such
Yeah,
there's
it's-
such diversity in their selection.
Yeah.
Like you can lay 5 or 6 Marvel titles down in a row and
And they're
just
all
look
Avengers. It's amazing.
at them. Yeah, really. They're all Avengers or X-Men.
17 X-related titles.
How
by
many
the way.
Avengers related titles?
They
9.
didn't. They couldn't. I don't think they could do that on one single page
Yeah.
in the back of the book, which they did on the X
But-
books. Why would you do that anyway? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Let's list that we have 17 X books. That's not redundant at all. Sorry.
Concept.
Sorry.
You're on a beach. You're warm. It's okay.
Zen.
Soothing.
Zen.
Soothing.
It's not on the verge.
Soothing. I'm sorry.
It's all right. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm back. Everything's great.
No, but what I was saying is you can lay those books down, and regardless, even take out the red band that's at the bottom of all now. You can look at them all and say, okay, I can see where these are all from the same company. You can do that with DC too, and see kind of like that quote unquote house style.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
DC or Marvel has. You can't do that with Image books.
Because they're all.
It's
Which is
so-
why I keep getting the Wake confused, because the Wake seems like it would be an
It's-
Image book.
It's an incredibly diverse company, and there's really something for everyone out there. Like, I'm getting into 10 grand. I'm gonna at some point pick up Invincible, but there's if you like, they've literally got something for everyone. Fatale, if you like your noir,
Oh,
your
yeah.
crime dramas,
Good stuff there.
it's out there. Saga, Witchblade is still going. Spawn is still going. Savage Dragon is still going. Kudos to Eric Larson. Savage Dragon is coming up on issue 200, and he's done pretty much all of them.
Full disclosure, man, when I was 10 and Savage Dragon came out, that was my favorite title of all the Image titles. I don't know what it was about it, but that was my absolute favorite one. I totally fell out of it in the mid-90s, so I have no idea what's been going on with it for the last
Yeah.
15 years. But when recently on Omni Comics podcast, we reviewed the first 3 issues of the original miniseries.
Yeah.
And not only does it hold up as being really good, unlike Youngblood and Brigade and whatnot,
Oh, jeez.
it's really good, and it reminded me so much of Kirkman's Invincible. Like the tone, the setting, the characters, like everything. I was like, oh my god, this was almost like Invincible in style 20 years before Invincible even came out. Like it's pretty wild, man.
I will say though, as the Spawn girl, which is what they dubbed me when I first started coming here, as the Spawn girl, I got to issue I said I was going to get to issue 200 of Spawn and stop reading because, spoiler alert, Al Simmons offs himself and they bring in this
He's already
amnesia
dead.
case. Yeah, but it's a whole ectoplasm, whatever. I don't care. I really don't. It like hurt my feelings almost.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just stabbed in the back by the Spawn title.
It's just a McFarlane book. It's okay.
But it's not for me. It isn't just a McFarlane book for me. But I get to 200 and it's like, bam, Malbosia's back in it. I'm like, oh shit, I can't drop this at 200. Malbosia's back in. And then,
Is he like made
He's
of
a
marshmallow
devil.
and stuff? Oh,
yeah,
Did
sorry.
he choose
it's
the form
okay.
of the
It's
Destructor?
okay. I understand.
I-
It's embarrassing for some people, but not for me.
That's okay.
That was my gateway drug, was Spawn.
Were you a goth chick by chance?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Spawn.
Not at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Nope. But yeah, no, I got to issue 205 and nothing happened with what happened in 200. And I was like, okay, done. Can't do it anymore. And I
Yeah.
stopped collecting Spawn. No more have I bought Spawn since 205. I just can't do it.
I didn't
I can't.
like. I loved McFarlane's work on Spider-Man. For many reasons, it's like we discussed: Crow, Batman, Doctor Strange, Blender, Spawn.
Yep.
But other than that, there were just reasons I couldn't get in the character. With the exception of that one issue they did early on, that was fantastic. That was really like a mission statement for Image Comics, which is where like Spawn was in some sort of jail cell type thing.
The Cerberus issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And all the hands are reaching out. You
Yeah.
can tell it's different
The
heroes and
Thing,
whatnot.
Wolverine.
Take
yeah.
my
Was
power,
that Spawn
do with it
number
what you can.
9 or something like that.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
that issue.
And then you like see Superman there.
Yeah.
And he's in the jail cell. It just says one word, Doomsday. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But
He didn't. Well, McFarlane didn't write that issue. So
yeah.
no.
I'm surprised that more hasn't been done with the character. Like, I know McFarlane is very controlling with the character and what medium he allows the character to go into, but I'm surprised that there hasn't been a reboot movie. There was like that fantastic cartoon series on HBO.
Oh my god, amazing.
That was just
How that didn't like just stay on air forever.
Yeah.
I will never understand because it was so great.
well, that was another interesting development that spun out of Image was Sam Keith's The Max. Like
I love
Yes.
the Max.
that got
I
picked up
bought-
on
I-
MTV as a
I
cartoon.
read
Liquid
it.
television.
And
It
it
was
was
on
like
Liquid Television
yeah.
at first, wasn't it?
no, it was
Or was it
straight
its
into
own-
its
it was
show.
its own
on
half
its
hour,
own,
right.
And like it was completely twisted.
And it was so good
Yeah, I
that
love
MTV
it.
canceled it right away,
Yep.
like they do with all their other good shows.
Well,
Yeah, moment of silence for MTV. Okay,
Moment's
we're
over.
like 20 years late. So
yeah, so
Yeah.
no, but but Image today is solidified in third place. I think we're realistic enough to admit they're never going to catch Marvel or DC.
nah.
Even though they did it one time.
They
re-
did it when they were
caught
the
DC
new
at one
flavor.
Time. Yep.
They did.
And that's something to be said.
but
Yeah.
they've staked out a claim. They are the place to go for creator-owned work.
Yeah.
If you want to go and actually be able to, make money, make a name for yourself, and actually own your creations and potentially have them be extraordinarily successful, like The Walking Dead, which has been a huge part of the resurgence and popularity of comic
Yeah.
books. If you want to do all that stuff and basically have free reign over your own stuff, go to Image. That's the
Yep.
place to be.
And now, really quickly, to wrap it up, for our viewers out there, recommend an Image title
Oh,
and give a
dear.
reason why they should. read
Dude.
it.
I'm not going first. I'll let you guys go first.
You're the guest.
Okay. Current or like in general, like trade paperback.
If you got one of each, go for one of each. We're
Well,
not going to restrict.
My definite all-time favorite Image titles are Invincible by Robert Kirkman. If you start from number 1 and go all the way up to I think it's in the hundreds now. Rock solid start to finish. I got the first trade. I crushed 4 trades in like the next hour because it was so addicting.
Wow.
It's what Spider-Man should be. So, well, in tone.
And
I
that's
mean.
talking to a
I know.
Yeah.
You'll like it. Anyway, Walking Dead obviously goes without saying. It's a great book. I don't even care about zombies, but I started reading Walking Dead on so many recommendations, and you
Yeah.
know what? Hey, it's good. What do you know? So those are probably the best 2 Image books in my opinion, both by Kirkman.
Okay. What do you got for us, Verge?
I went Saga, definitely. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Son of a-
No,
Sorry.
You can still use
you can
Saga.
pick it too, man.
I love Saga. I made the mistake of picking up the first 3 issues and reading them, but not buying them. So I don't have the first 3 issues. But the book, every 6 issues they take a break, and when they take their break, a volume comes out so that when you read up on your volumes, and then the next issue comes out, and that next issue is the best-selling issue they've ever had. They are just doing it the right way. The art,
now,
the
why
writing.
did they take that break?
They take that break because Fiona does the pencils, the inking, and the coloring on the book. Yeah, she's a busy lady.
Wow.
And she, I think the way she does it, her style, she actually does it smaller. She draws it smaller as opposed to doing it larger and then shrinking it down. She draws it smaller and then blows it up. Yeah.
Did not know that.
It's kind of nuts. But this, and
Honey, I
not to
Shrunk the Saga.
mention, not to mention they do a ton of appearances, and Brian K. Vaughan is a very busy guy and all that stuff. So they have to take a break, and it's brilliant because in that time they release the next trade, and then when they come back from break, the issue that comes up is the one that you left off on the trade.
That's amazing, though, that usually it's the number 1 that sells, like, tons of copies. And then...
It was number 7.
But with Saga, it's like...
Number 7
it's
was
just
the
going up.
best-selling
Yeah.
issue.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So, very
they
cool.
did 1 through 6. They took a couple months off. People picked up that first trade, and they just loved it. So when issue 7 came out, it was just amazing, just amazing.
Yay, Saga.
Okay, so for me, it's going to be 10 grand. Just started recently. They're only on issue 2. Art is fantastic. Dialogue is great. Story, it's not the most original story in the world, but it's still a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. That's going to do it for this roundtable section. Drew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
We
you, sir.
appreciate it.
Why, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you as always being here. And at some point, we will figure out
Oh, there's going to be the crossover event
what we're gonna actually
between
feud
Queen
about.
City Knights and Omni Comics Podcast.
It's gonna be bad.
versus
I've got things in store for you. That's all you need to know right
Jay gonna get it.
Jay going to get nutshot.
now. Oh, dear.
Yeah. He's going down
Phrasing?
in Chinatown.
Oh.
Okay. No, he knocked over toys. His name's Bitch now.
Oh, bitch boy.
On this week's Call of Duty, I'm changing things up a bit. Normally, I'm nice and reserved and kind, and Verge is kind of crazy and angry. That's not going to be the case this week, kiddos. Uncle Carl's going to kind of take you on a ride. I'm going to be the crotchety old man sitting on his front porch telling you to get off my lawn this week. I am talking about video games. We had a couple gentlemen on this show earlier talking about E3, and it was a great session. I'm a video gamer myself. I love video games. But dang it, kids, today you are just too spoiled. Back in the day when I started playing games, we didn't have memory cards. We didn't have save points. When you started a game and you died, you went back to the beginning and started again. You didn't have all these nice little shortcuts and whatnot. Sure, you had the occasional warp zone in a Mario game, but let me tell you something, kids. I'm going to tell you about a game called Ghost and Goblins. Ghost and Goblins was one of the hardest freaking games out there. And this is what happens. You go through this game. You spend hours playing this game. And then you get to the end. And you beat the big monster. And you save the princess. And you know what happens? The big monster tells you the whole thing was a dream. And you have to go back to the first stage and start again. And do it all again. Then, only then, when you went through this incredibly hard, soul-grinding game a second time, did you actually beat it. And when you beat it, this is what you got. You didn't get a half-hour CG sequence explaining a nice, pretty story. No. You got the one little character on one part of the screen and our character on another part of the screen. They came together and hugged, and you got a little text saying, congratulations, game's over. You just wasted 18 hours of your life. And that was 18 hours straight because we didn't have memory cards. You kids got it too easy today. You need to appreciate what you got. And that's this week's Call of Duty.
It's okay.
It's twice. You had to do it
I
twice.
know you'll never get that time back.
There was no reason for it. It was so hard. It was.
Guys. Guys. Guys.
Yeah, that does it for another episode of Queen City Nights. We thank you for tuning in to watch us. And as always, if you're looking to get into the comic book collecting hobby or an established reader, you can find us here at Queen City Bookstore, 3184 Main Street in Buffalo near UB.
Beautiful Buffalo, New York.
Beautiful, sunny, no tornadoes, earthquakes.
Yeah,
Buffalo, New York.
nothing that's going to kill you. Or you can find us on the interwebs on Twitter at Queen City Nights, or you can find us on Facebook. And if you're old as dirt, you can email us at queencitynights@gmail.com.
Well, if there are no more rude interruptions,
This
I'm
guy.
going to go back to reading Star Wars. What are you reading?
Thanos Rising.
Cool.
Indeed.
Speeding. I got it. Thanks.
You're good.
Go right ahead.
And now it's time for check-in with the chief.
Nope. I ain't doing it.
Come on.
Nope.
Come on. It's already legal in 13 states.
Oh,
That's the sexual thing. What are you talking about? That bitch you locked away for a long time. You know, sorry.
let's do it again.
I'll call that as a cut.
And now it's time for check-in with the chief.
Nope. I ain't doing it.
Come on.
No way. I ain't doing it.
But all we need is a donkey and three musketeer costumes.
I might consider that. Mm-hmm. Depends on where you are.
Hold a straight face.
Shit.
Struggling to find the way, so draw the